We welcome both of our prestigious presenters today. And so we're very excited to bring to you today our parish social ministers and parish leaders on the Catholic social teachings of immigration and the movement of peoples. So Terry and Maria, take it away.
Thank you, Rhonda. Good morning, everyone. So here's our agenda. Today, we're going to talk about Catholic social teaching as it refers to immigration. We're going to touch on our command to love the stranger and three basic principles of Catholic social teaching as it relates to immigration. We'll introduce St. Francis Cabrini, who is the saint after which our program is named. And Terry will speak about the legal services that are provided by the Cabrini Center at Catholic Charities. So we look at scripture as Christians for our command that basically comes from God to love the strangers. We can find these in the Old Testament and also in the New Testament. In the Old Testament, there is over 36 references of commands for loving the stranger. We see accounts of people forced to flee because of oppression. For example, in Exodus, the book of Exodus, the chosen people of Israel were oppressed as slaves in Egypt, and God ordered his people for all time to have a special care for the alien. In Leviticus, we probably see one of the strongest mandates for love the strangers, where it says, you shall treat the alien who resides with you no differently than the natives born among you. Have the same love for him as for yourself, for you too were once aliens in the land of Egypt. And this comes from Leviticus 19:33-34. In the New Testament, we have the story in Matthew of Joseph and Mary, where the angel tells Joseph to take the child, the newborn child, Jesus, to Egypt. Mm-hmm. And Paul tells us in Galatians, in his letter to Galatians, there is neither Jew nor Greek, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. In Christ, the human race is one before God, equal in dignity and rights. So as Christians, as people of God, we have to treat one another the same way. We are neither Jew nor Greek. We are brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ. That's our command. It's not a request, it's a command from God. So there are three basic principles of Catholic social teaching on immigration, and you can read a whole lot of documents on these from the USCCB website. There is plenty of documentation that speaks to each one of these first three principles. The first one, the people have the right to migrate to sustain their lives and the lives of their families. The second principle is that a country has every right to regulate its borders and to control migration. And the third principle, a country must regulate its borders with justice and mercy. That's probably the most important aspect of it. However, we decide to regulate our borders must take into account to be a merciful enforcement and to regulate it with justice, okay? So who is St. Francis Cabrini Center? St. Francis Cabrini Center program is named after a saint who was an immigrant from Italy, and she is the first naturalized U.S. citizen that was canonized in the United States. So Sister Francis Xavier Cabrini was born in Italy. She's the founder of the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart. And Pope Leo the 13th, she went and asked him, she wanted to go to China. She wanted to minister to the people in China. And her Pope at the time said, no, not to the East, but to the West. So he sent her to the United States. She sailed to New York, and there she started working with Italian immigrants. However, when she arrived in New York, she has a very interesting story, and that is why she's the patron saint of immigrants. When she arrived, the Bishop of New York decided that he really didn't need a sister here, and he wanted to send her home. And nobody met her at the docks when she arrived, you know. So the bishop later told her that she should just return back to Italy, that he really didn't have any use for her here. Sister Cabrini did not speak English very well, but it is recorded that she did say, "In America, I stay." So she stayed, and she helped countless of Italian immigrants during her time here. She's the patron saint of immigrants. She organized catechism and education classes for the Italian immigrants in New York, provided for the needs of many orphans. She also founded schools and orphanages. She spent her ministry helping the Italian immigrants in New York. And the sisters, missionary sisters of the Sacred Heart have still a very strong presence in the United States. So we take inspiration from the work of the ministry of Frances Cabrini, and our program is named after her, the St. Francis Cabrini Center for Immigrant Legal Assistance. So in our Catholic teaching, there is a special concern for undocumented immigrants. And why is that? Well, we know that every person has a basic human right and is entitled to have basic human needs, such as food, shelter, clothing, education, and healthcare. And undocumented persons are particularly vulnerable to exploitation because of their situation, mainly from employers who decide to mistreat them, take advantage of them. And also they get often victimized, victims of crimes. God promises that our judgment will be based on how we treat the most vulnerable. And the lack of legal status does not deprive a person of any rights given by God. These are fundamental rights that were given to each person, to each human being. So Pope Francis, in his call to the Christian community, the Catholic community, has 4 points to guide the world's response to refugees. 1, to welcome, to protect, to promote, and to integrate. And at Catholic Charities, and in particular at the St. Francis Cabrini Center, those are the 4 principles that guide our mission, the work that we do. We welcome, we strive to help them to seek and find protection. We promote their dignity, and we also help them integrate into their new home, where they're like Mother Cabrini said, "In America, I stay." So now Terry is going to speak about the legal services that are provided by the St. Francis Cabrini Center for Immigrant Legal Assistance.
Thanks, Maria. I appreciate that. It's an excellent story about St. Francis Cabrini. Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk just a few minutes about what we do, and then also how to reach us for if you have somebody who needs assistance that you're working with. And then really I would want to offer you an opportunity to ask questions as well. So I'll try and make sure we have plenty of time for that. As obviously Maria just discussed, the mission of Cabrini Center derives from the mission of Catholic Charities and from the Catholic social teachings. And the whole purpose of the Cabrini Center in that context is to advance social justice and racial equity by securing immigration protection and citizenship for immigrants to enable them to fully participate in the economic, political, and social life of the U.S. We provide high quality, free or low cost immigration legal representation and assistance in the immigrant community. It's through Harris County and surrounding areas. The sort of backbone and long-standing part of what Cabrini Center has done is known for is outreach and consultations. Sort of in my background, I talk about what Cabrini Center does, and Charla's is probably one of the things that we're very well known for. And that's a free session that people can attend. Back in the days before COVID, they would attend in person, and we could provide updates about what's going on in immigration. If it was a time of particular stress related to threats of deportation, then we could provide kits or the red cards with information about what to do if somebody came to your door. And other information that's just current and helpful for people answering questions, because one of the sort of most difficult things that happen in the immigrant community is there's so many people giving bad information, and some of them not on purpose, and other people purposefully, predatory sorts of attempts to get people to, pay money to do things that actually aren't supported by the law or aren't supported in terms of what the current status is. So those charlas and those information sessions are invaluable, and that's something we've done for a long time. As part of that, then after the general session, we provide a individual brief consultation and try and identify, if we can, if there's anything that we can do to help in our programs, or if not, then refer possibly to other programs or other resources available in the community. Those individual evaluations, again, are very valuable to folks. And that's also how sort of the conduit for us to be able to work with people. And so that's how our referral process happens. And so for anybody to participate in a charla, we are doing them still during COVID. We obviously are no longer meeting with large groups. And so we're doing them individually by phone consultation remotely right now, as we have been throughout the pandemic. We work with clients directly when it's necessary to, but for this consultation, these are all done remotely. And so they can schedule an appointment by contacting our telephone numbers. Is available on our website, and it's on this PowerPoint as well. We also do a lot of community outreach. And in fact, that's one of the areas that we really want to do more. We think that people have been isolated and due to COVID, obviously. And then also reach out to communities that may be less engaged, less likely to show up at charlas for any reason. So that is an area that and then that's one of the things that I think working with you all that really makes a big difference. And that you are working in communities that may not be coming to us as much, and so that you can help us in reaching out. But so we do provide a lot of direct outreach in the community as well, whether it be through different agencies, obviously groups like the parishes. We also work with, there's an apartment complex that we have previously been able to go and do charlas directly there. That has a large group of immigrants that were identified to us by the Sisters of Charity. And so lots of opportunities like that we really want to continue to grow in that area, to do more. So that's sort of the backbone of and sort of what we've done for a long time. Beyond outreach and charlas and information centers, sessions, we also will do workshops at different times. With this workshop could be where we have, again, we may have to do these remotely now by Zoom, or with telephone sequential appointments. But we'll work with a group of people on a particular topic to provide information, and then assist them if they just want help with the application. For instance, naturalization. We provide on a regular basis a naturalization workshop where we can, talk to people individually about, their questions and help them fill out their paperwork for free, obviously. And then also we've had DACA information sessions to provide updates, and also then we follow those up with intake, and we actually primarily will represent people to assist them with DACA if they need assistance. At times we've also had pro se asylum assistance in a workshop or sort of charla environment. Another area that we have just a very robust program is our pro bono collaborations. We work with pro bono attorneys on a number of different types of cases. And we do, sometimes our pro bono attorneys will help us with one of the workshops, for instance, a naturalization workshop. And then in other situations, they may actually be taking cases and actually representing clients. And we work with them very closely. And so that's one of the programs that's been very valuable to us and to our clients. The next area that is within our general programs is the Unaccompanied Children's Program Services. The Unaccompanied Children Program is, there's a myriad of different things that we do sort of under this umbrella. We receive funding to provide pro bono representation. I apologize, close the door real quick. Joys of working remotely. So we specifically have pro bono representation of unaccompanied minors in that program, specifically for that area, and then legal services for minors that are in shelters and care, and so that we'll provide legal know your rights, legal screenings. We assist them with reunification, alternative release options, such as long-term foster care. And then we may represent them if they're in court while they're also in the shelter or detained, or the befriend of court, or if we actually represent them. And then upon their release in Harris County, they are likely to become our clients, so that we'll represent them ongoingly. And that's what we call direct representation of unaccompanied minors. And so that just is sort of universal, as it sounds, that we represent them, and whatever relief they have available, we'll assist with applying for it. Typically for unaccompanied minors, special juvenile status or asylum tend to be the primary areas of relief. Sometimes they are trafficking victims or have been victims of crime. That may also be an area of relief that we will assist. Related to the unaccompanied minor programs is also work that we do with the sponsors of these children who have come in unaccompanied. And so we provide a legal orientation and legal assistance to sponsors of unaccompanied children that lets them know what to expect and how to make sure that the children are present in court, and that they follow up with their legal obligations and know their legal rights. And also we help them with any kind of assistance we can, and if there's anything else that they need to be successful in sponsoring the children. A safe release program is another that is related, where we assist with completing biometrics necessary for them to be sponsors of an unaccompanied child. And so that's a lot of services, and a lot of our staff actually is involved in that particular program. But yeah, no, I'm ready to get to the next one. Thanks, Betsy. The next program, this one is, again, probably one of the oldest programs in the Cabrini Center, the Family Immigration Program. This program is where we provide, for low cost, immigration representation for persons able to pursue some type of legal immigration status, typically based on family sponsorship, whether it be a U.S. citizen son or daughter who's 21 and able to sponsor a mom or dad at this point, or if it's a spouse, citizen or permanent resident, or if it could even be, it's still today at this point, is siblings are still allowed. The U.S. citizen brother or sister is able to sponsor their sibling. but it takes a very long time. So we don't see that as often, but more often it's going to be the more immediate relative of the mothers, fathers, sons and daughters and spouses. Then also the family-based program, will handle any type of DACA and TPS, benefits for refugees and asylees in terms of adjustment of status, that type of thing. Our criteria is that we will serve people who are at 300% of the poverty guideline or below, and that they would pay, again, the low fees for representation. So we do try to make sure that, if the folks can afford representation, that that they're able to find other attorneys. We can assist them with that as well. And like I said, typically our referrals for this program come through the Charities. General immigration, this is our program that's focused on representing people. These are typically free services and that we are able to provide through grants that we've obtained. These are the criteria for being able to represent people in this program is that they have to be typically 200% of the poverty guideline or below. And the services include naturalization and citizenship. That's, like I said, we do the workshops where we help people with what we call pro se or filling out their own applications and assist them with that. And then we also directly represent people with naturalization and citizenship applications as well, just depending on what the needs are, which program they are participating in. Our program that we have that provides citizenship assistance, also we partner with a group under this grant that will provide free ESL and citizenship prep. So, in terms of, learning about the new test or learning how to prepare for the test part of the naturalization process. And just I'll throw out there updates. If you may have heard that there's a new citizenship test that was put on hold. So it was, we were really pleased about that being put on hold. So right now it's still the test that's been around for a long time. We also provide various immigration services for asylees and refugees related to adjustment of status, employment authorization, family refugee applications. The way that we receive, again, the referrals for this program is through telephone calls requesting that assistance through the Charities. And also there is an email, and I apologize, I think I need to correct that email address. They may have changed it since I had it in this slide. But we do have an email address that I will update you with and make sure that everybody gets a copy of it. That you could also provide, or that you can contact us directly. So that is our general immigration program. And last is our crime victim program. We have funds from a couple of different places to provide assistance to crime victims. That is a combination of different types of immigration applications for people who are victims or witnesses of crimes that we're able to get certifications from one of the agencies, law enforcement agencies, certifying that they're assisting with the crime, and their family members are often eligible as well. There's assistance for crime victims through the Violence Against Women Act, and which is usually related to domestic violence. Trafficking victims, there's a visa specifically for trafficking victims. And then, any of those areas, it's a long process, but ultimately they typically are going to be eligible to apply for the green card as well. So That program really works with our law enforcement agencies and the different victim rights agencies to provide representation for the folks that have been subject to some sort of crime or violence. Again, this is one of the criteria is that for us to be able to assist persons, they have to be below 200% of the poverty guideline. And so, again, referrals can come through Charla's, or if somebody specifically has a crime victim concern, then they can make that request directly to speak to somebody regarding the crime victim program, and either one of those telephone numbers. So that is sort of an overview of the programs we have and the type of work that we do. This is just a screenshot of our website, and you will find a link. If somebody wanted to go online, they could make an appointment for renewal of DACA. We'll set up appointments that people can go in and actually request those online. So that makes it very convenient. And it has, other information about our program. So you can see in the pull down menus that there's some of the same information we talked about will be in there. And I see, okay, I did get the email address correct. It is citizenship@catholiccharities.org. So we've got that information both at the website and in the slide is correct. So yes, and then also there isn't one right now. The events calendar through the website will have our upcoming workshops. And I think I looked before when I was putting this together, and I didn't see it on the schedule, but I know that there will be one coming up in the next quarter. So we will make sure that that's there. And so, yeah, so I think that's sort of brings us to the end of the overview. I definitely would like to answer any questions or provide any more information that you need.
Yes.
And Terry, so anybody want to ask any questions? You can either ask them on the chat or unmute yourself and ask questions.
I do have a question. This is Hilda at St. John the Baptist in Alvin. I do realize that there's help for people seeking asylum or DACA recipients. Is there assistance for those that are like on an expired passport?
So it depends on sort of what their situation is. So yeah, boy, as I sound like a lawyer, it's like it depends. But an expired passport in and of itself wouldn't is separate from their status. But if they have a status, they were here as a visitor and the visitor visa is about to expire. We haven't typically worked on expiring visitor visa status very often, unless it's somebody in distress, in a situation like that. Then yeah, we could definitely help with that.
What about the people that have
Okay. So if they're what about those that they're trying to get like permanent residence, and they're on an expired visa, or they're on an expired, like they came here like on a passport for like a vacation, and
Gotcha.
they ended up staying, and then now they're trying to get permanent residency. Do you help with that?
We could. And so I would say that the first thing we would want to do is do an evaluation through a Charla to find out what the options are for permanent residence. Is somebody who's here whose status has expired as a visitor will have everybody has very limited options right now under our current laws of how to apply for permanent residence. But say they had a family member that's a U.S. citizen spouse or adult son or daughter that wanted to sponsor them, yeah, absolutely. That would fall under our family visa program. And that would be the type of case that we could assist with under that. And so that would be a great person to talk to at Charla and sort of get more information and see how we could help if we can.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a question. This is Sister Fortune from St. Bart's, Katy.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Then the question I have is on the crime victims. My question is, the victims is themselves or the victim, can the person get who is the beneficiary from this? Is the person residing in United States or any other place?
Good question. For crime victims, typically it has to be in the U.S. Both the place where the crime happened and that the person that's going to be the beneficiary has to be here. Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Okay, thank you. Another question would be on the unaccompanied children.
Yes.
My question there is how did this the children or the kid or the child herself or himself, how did he find his way in the United States?
Right. So what we see most typically is that they are coming to the border or across the border illegally and asking for assistance, and that they've come either by themselves or they've come with a non-parent. That could be somebody they know, or it could be a completely separate person that they don't know, but they have come without a parent, and that they then are taken, if they're under 18, they're taken under the Office of Refugee Resettlement Care, ultimately, usually within 72 hours of Customs and Border Protection finding them, and that they're then in the shelter in that situation. So, and they're coming, in terms of who's coming, we see mostly minors from Central America. Every once in a while, there'll be minors from other countries. But yeah, mostly we're seeing them coming through Mexico to the border from Central America.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I see in the chat that Chris Austin from Mary Queen and Friendswood is asking who can apply for DACA.
So I have to look at the dates to give you the exact cutoff, because so DACA, there's a group of people who they had to have been under the age of they had to be under the age of, I think it was 31, and they had to be over 16 at the time they applied, and that they cut off new applications for a very long time, and that actually is open now. We are doing new applications, so anybody who's over the age of 16 is able to apply. They had to have been meet the other criteria, but the new applications are happening. And so there's a whole group of people who were not able to apply once they turned 16 when they cut off, I think it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And so, yeah, I'll have to look at the exact dates, and I could actually send you the times, the dates, so if they were born after this date and they were in school or completed school, and then they'd be eligible.
Thank you.
Very exciting. Yeah.
That is very exciting. There are a few other questions in the chat. Those who are asking questions, you're welcome to unmute yourselves. I think Karina had a question.
kind of
Yes,
looking
my
at.
question is, can anyone apply for the asylum status, or is that just people from certain countries?
Sure. For asylum, it is not specific to a country. Asylum is very, very narrow in terms of who's going to ultimately be successful in applying for protection. But it's more based on, has somebody been persecuted or persecution attempt due to one of 5 areas, either race, religion, social group, political opinion, or which one am I missing, Maria?
Nationality.
Nationality, thank you. And so in social group is the one that has been very difficult to define, and they've narrowed the definition significantly. For a little while, we were able to include somebody who may have been a victim of domestic violence, and their social group would be specifically based on, being a woman in the Central American country who's, the political system doesn't protect them, doesn't, recognize protection of women from their husbands, or, other types of social groups. But anyway, so it's not really, doesn't matter what country, it just really is a matter of whether or not they meet that criteria. Karina, you may have been, you may be referring to maybe more specifically the rule that you can't apply for asylum if you come through a third country. If that's the case, right now, I think that there's been some retraction of those restrictions on asylum if you came through a third country. There's always been a restriction on asylum if you were firmly resettled in a different country before you came here. But that's, but just traveling through didn't used to be restrictive from applying for asylum or prohibitive. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Make sure I got it. Okay.
Thank you for asking that question, Karina. I see a question from Maria Burdick. She said her question is, if Congress takes up immigration reform, does Catholic Charities and the Archdiocese have a platform they support? So to your question, Maria, thank you for asking that. But as for our government relations at Catholic Charities and all of our programs, we follow under the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and the Texas Catholic Conference of Bishops to guide us on our legislation when it comes to concerns such as this and such questions. So should the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops make a determination that we support a public policy or an agenda, then we follow suit. And so that I hope that answers your question. Does it? If it answers your question, then we're glad. But if it doesn't, then just stay tuned, because we will send out calls to action. Sometimes that we will ask our parish social ministers, our pastors of our archdiocese to support some legislation that advances the human dignity of the person and some of these issues that we encounter, including immigration.
I just would like to add something to Terry's comments. For everybody, the most important aspect, or one of the most important aspects of the services that we provide is our charla and the charla consultations. And yes, we do sound like lawyers because we're lawyers. So every case is different. We evaluate every case on a case-by-case basis. And that is why it's extremely important that the person receives a legal consultation, an individual legal consultation. And the best way to get one is through the charla, where they will speak with a competent, highly qualified immigration attorney that will address questions that are very specific to each person. Immigration law is exceedingly complicated. it has a lot of nuances, and it is difficult to fit it all in. It's like a cookie cutter, right? So whenever you have encounter a person, remember, we accompany the person, right? We journey with them. When you encounter somebody like that, there is some hope. It's important that they have that legal consultation with one of our attorneys that will assess their very specific situation, right? There's a lot of nuances that may benefit them without them even realizing that they actually can avail themselves to some form of relief. So don't despair, send them to a legal consultation, make sure that they get registered. That's your way of accompanying that person, right? Providing some level of hope, and then we'll take care of the rest. And again, under the guidance of our patron saint, hopefully we get enlightened and we find information on our law books and our websites that are, we're able to help someone to better their situation. And then to Sister's question about the crime victims, that's also very nuanced. And there, some of those visas, the U visa, T visa, the VAWA also have benefits that will apply to derivatives that are not in the United States. And our program is very good. Our crime victims program is very good at helping people who also have relatives in their home countries, children usually, or spouse, that will follow to join, whether it's also the asylee as well, the U visa person, the T visa person, but it depends on each situation. So rather than, just have an answer, straight answer, because it depends, right? And it's not something we created, it's just the complication of immigration law. So refer them to our charla, we'll give them a consultation, and we'll figure something, we'll figure how to help them.
And to follow that, Maria and Terry too. So we have a lot of, our clergy and parish leaders here. So if a parishioner, somebody from their community say, I do want help, but I'm scared to share my situation. What piece of advice can you give our folks here about what to say to somebody who's worried about reaching out to us?
So I think the main thing is for them to know that they just need to be able to trust that there are people who want to help them, and that obviously you've started that process already, but to let them know that our focus is completely confidential and focused on figuring out a way that we can work with them. That is something that everybody that works with us is passionate about, and that that they are looking for an opportunity to work with them and to see if there's a way that we can help. It is really difficult because it's really hard to know who to trust, and it is very frightening with all of the information that they hear and all of the information about what's happening to other people. So I guess to the extent that you can just reassure them of our confidentiality, that that our focus is on them.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
Hilda De Leon from St. John the Baptist has another question. She says our website has 125 below poverty guideline. Is it now 200? And can they announce the Cabrini Center in their parish bulletin? Okay.
So we do have, each grant has a different criteria for the financial guideline of what percentage of the poverty guideline the person has to be under. And so I need to look at the website and see where it says 125 versus 200. Our general immigration tends to be, our general immigration primarily is under 200. For crime victims, we do have one of the programs that's 125%, but there are others within crime victims that are 200. So it'll depend on the program and the sort of availability of resources under that. I will take a look at how that's worded and make sure that we can make it a little bit more clear that there's a bit of a range. I
Does
appreciate you
anybody
telling me
else
that.
have- Yes, thank you. Thank you for answering those questions and for making those statements, Maria. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes.
Father John?
Rhonda,
Yes.
may I ask a question?
Yes, of course. Hi, Ascension.
Hi. Hi. So Maria, great to see you. I'm Sarah's mom. You remember us, I hope. We are one of the blessed families that has used that received a child in our home as our daughter through the program through Maria Mitchell and all of her wonderful attorneys. So thank you, Maria. Sarah is now a 6th grader, just doing wonderful. And I wanted to ask you, because I cannot find an answer to this from other people. We're in the process of adopting 1 or 2 more boys. They would be younger than Sarah. So my question is, you mentioned something about some of those programs with the families. Is there a program? Right now we're working through Barbara Baldovin, A World for Children, but is there a program where we can reach out to some of these children that may not have been connected back with their parents, with their families?
You're talking about the kids that are still separated from the actions of the prior administration?
Right, because I think I just heard you guys mention something about some of these children being placed in the system for adoption.
So the program right now, that when they place them after the shelter, it's possible that they'll go into a temporary foster care, foster care. And also if they have attained a status, a certain type of status, either asylum or trafficking status, victim status, they may go into what we call an unaccompanied refugee minor program. And so those are temporary placements. And they don't do any, through that ORR shelter release sort of track, they don't do direct placement to adoption. But we could definitely put you in touch with St. Jerome's that does do unaccompanied refugee minor program for foster families, with them in terms of, you know, how that process works through St. Jerome's program. I don't know myself what the path is to adoption from there.
Yeah, and some good news that we've heard recently. The current administration actually is being more intentional about a task force to identify and locate the parents of there were a little over 500 still out of like 3,000, and being more intentional with the task force. The tragedy of that situation is that there was no records. The kids were separated completely and there's no tracking of where the parents are. So there's parents out there who don't know who their kids are, and there's children that really don't understand why they're not with their parents. So it's a really tragic situation. And Ascension, I'm so glad to see you, because you're just that reminder of a time when our system was a lot more merciful, right? Justice and mercy. And just Ascension and I have children that are exactly the same age, born the same month. And we went through that journey together, right? And seeing this system that we just recently went through, it's horrible, but there is hope, right? So you're a good example of that hope that we have to keep. We can't lose our hope.
Thank you, Maria. That is correct.
Okay, so we have a couple of parishes who are asking about if they can post our center, the Cabrini Center, in their parish bulletin.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. That's, like I said before, our outreach you are such a great resource for outreach, people that we want to be able to try and get and reach out to and help. So please, yes.
Okay. Susan Gallagher, who is our parish social minister from, oh my gosh, why did I just go blank? Prince of Peace. She's asking if we have an update on what happened to all the people from Honduras trying to immigrate to the United States through Guatemala after Mr. Biden became president.
Okay. I'm trying to make sure I've got the right. So there's the MPP program where there's a number of people who were made to wait in Mexico, and that group is actually being processed into the US to wait in the US. So that's the MPP program. And those people did come from Honduras in different places. But I think that you're talking about people who were turned around maybe. And I don't know that there is a process in place yet for that group, because there were a number of people turned around and not allowed in. They didn't even get to that. I'm sorry, I'm saying MPP as if that makes any sense in the world. It doesn't. There was the MPP was it was the wait in Mexico court process. So they would register with the courts, the tent courts. And then they'd have to stay. They were staying in Mexico in those little tent cities that we all saw. Hundreds and hundreds of people. And so they're probably, I think the latest number I heard was more than 10,000 people that were in that program process, or whatever you want to call it. And that they are in the process of being brought back into the US. And in fact, I think that we're just starting to see some of that group go into Brownsville. I think Sister Norma's program right there in Brownsville is welcoming and trying to help assist them. And some of them we may be seeing in Houston before very long. So if that's part of the group you're thinking of, then that's what's happening with them right now. Those turned around, I'm not sure that there's anything at the moment happening.
Thank you. Father John, did you have a question?
I was wondering, Rhonda, if Catholic Charities would be open, say, to do a talk, say, hosted by a certain parish, and inviting people in the area to attend, if that is possible at all.
Thank you, Father John. Father John is the pastor at St. John the Baptist in Alvin, Texas, which is in Brazoria County. And so, Father John, I'm presuming that you would want, and he's also the dean of, remind me which deanery, Father John?
The Southern Deanery.
Southern Deanery. If that would be possible to host something at the parish in Brazoria County.
And the answer is yes. I guess during COVID, it's, question for us in terms of, is it possible to do something remotely? If it's a matter of, rather than, trying to get together with a large group. But if you have something set up so that it's feasible to do in person with a smaller group, then that is absolutely possible. Yeah, we would love it. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being so gracious and for being so informative, Terry and Maria. Thank you again to Betsy for providing this platform and helping us organize, and to Bettina for her leadership. We are at close, but if anybody has a burning question, please ask now. Anybody?
Well, and also just to let everyone know, if they have a request, just like Father John, a charla at your parish, and like Terry said, of course, with following the guidelines to keep everybody safe, please, Rhonda is the liaison for parishes at Catholic Charities and parishes. So please reach out to Rhonda, and she will ensure that the correct program gets the question asked. And help coordinate. So please contact Rhonda.
Thank you. Thank you. And everyone here should have my contact information. I can also share my cell phone number, but we are grateful that you joined us today. I hope this information was very helpful to you and to your parish community. So we'll just close with a quote from St. Francis of Assisi, one that hung in my former boss's office. It's preach the gospel always, and when necessary, use words. God bless you all, and blessed Lent to you and your families and your parish communities. Take care, and we'll see you again. Our next event is going to be on March 23rd, and we're going to discuss housing, the housing program at Catholic Charities. So stay tuned, check your email for more details, Zoom information, and other information, relative information. So thank you so much. God bless you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.